Readings of Almighty God's words on the pursuit of the truth. How to pursue the truth. 14. The three categories of people based on their origins. The characteristics of people reincarnated from devils. Recently, we fellowshipped on a topic, which is distinguishing different categories of people based on their origins. This is a special topic that arises under the broader topic of people's innate conditions, humanity, and corrupt dispositions. We fellowshipped on some content concerning this special topic. What was included?
God categorized people into three types according to their origin: those reincarnated from animals, those reincarnated from devils, and those reincarnated from humans. The first time, God fellowshipped about the four characteristics of those reincarnated from animals. The first is that they have distorted comprehension. The second is that they are particularly numb. The third is that they are particularly muddle-headed. And the fourth characteristic is that they are foolish. The second time, God fellowshipped about the characteristics of those reincarnated from devils. The first is that they are inveterate liars. The second is that they are deviant. And the third is that they are evil. The main focus of the fellowship was on the two manifestations of them being inveterate liars and being deviant.
The main manifestation of being an inveterate liar is deception. As for the manifestations of being deviant, we also categorized them. How many manifestations were there?
There were three. The first relates to disposition, namely, being sinister and abnormal. The second involves wicked lust of the flesh. And another is being bizarre, that is, often experiencing auditory and other sensory hallucinations, and always exhibiting abnormal behaviors.
This is generally what was included. 2. The second characteristic, deviance. Last time, we fellowshipped on some manifestations of the deviant aspect of people reincarnated from devils. I read about the manifestations of one person in the expulsion documents compiled by the church. Everyone have a listen and see whether their manifestations relate to what we fellowshipped on. This individual was responsible for growing vegetables on a farm. His main manifestations were described as, his humanity is malicious, and his attitude toward the above is irreverent, with several specific manifestations listed. The first manifestation was, he casually chose a place to grow vegetables for the above. Later on, it was discovered that this place had low terrain and was prone to waterlogging. The fertilizer applied there was washed away by the water, resulting in the vegetables growing very small. He knew fertilizer should be applied again, but just did not do it. He saw that the vegetables were not growing well but did not do anything. He deliberately gave the above poorly grown vegetables to eat. This was the first manifestation. The second manifestation was, normally, he only tended to the vegetables grown for the brothers and sisters and then left. As for the vegetables grown for the above, he did not tend to them or manage them. He did not concern himself with the matter or do anything about it. The third manifestation was, he knew that lots of pests had infested the vegetables, biting them into a pockmarked mess that looked disgusting and made them inedible. But he just casually sprayed some pesticide without caring whether it was effective. When others reminded him to pick the pests off the vegetables, he was completely indifferent, thinking, "What's there to get all worked up about? I have so many jobs to do. I can't be hovering around these vegetables every day." You see, this is what he thought in his heart. Even when others reminded him, he still would not act. The fourth manifestation was, what he thought in his heart about growing vegetables for the above was, "However the vegetables I grow turn out, that's just what you'll have to eat. If they turn out good, you'll have good vegetables to eat. If I didn't grow any good ones, then don't eat them. Anyway, I've grown them for you. You have to be grateful to me." These were the malicious thoughts in his heart, and he told these thoughts to those he lived with. When others reminded him not to use the basket for rotten vegetable leaves when delivering vegetables to the above, he said, "I can't make any guarantees about that." You see, others reminded him, and he still didn't listen. He just did whatever he wanted. This was the fourth manifestation. The fifth manifestation was, he treated the vegetables grown for the above like this without any awareness in his heart, without the slightest remorse. Whenever anyone reminded him, telling him to be more mindful, he became resistant and averse. Whoever gave him suggestions, he hated that person. The leaders and workers derived 5 manifestations in total. They summarized this individual's usual manifestations, as well as his attitude toward the truth and his attitude toward duty, and they also listed specific examples. The summary was quite good. How do you feel after hearing this? Does someone who has these manifestations have good humanity?
No.
How bad was it? Did this person's manifestations align with those of people reincarnated from devils about which we fellowshipped?
Yes.
Which manifestation did they align with?
Such people's manifestation of being evil.
In addition to being evil, did he have any manifestations of being deviant, which are characteristic of people reincarnated from devils? How was this evident?
Ordinary people, when growing vegetables for the above, would make it a priority to choose good land, but he chose to curry favor with the brothers and sisters. He only took care of the vegetables grown for the brothers and sisters. For the vegetables grown for the above, he chose poor land, did not tend to them or deal with pests, and always gave the above poorly grown vegetables to eat. His attitude toward the above, toward God, was one of enmity.
Why was his attitude toward the above one of enmity? Had the above offended him?
No, his attitude was determined by his nature essence. He hated God and hated positive things.
I truly never knew this individual. I had never had any dealings with him at all. Then how could he harbor such deep hatred in his heart? This is a problem with his nature. For one thing, it was evil. For another, it was deviant. Was it not? Isn't it the same as that of the great red dragon? In how he treated God and positive things, there was a kind of hatred in his heart. If you asked him what was going on, he himself wouldn't be able to explain it clearly. He just felt hatred. He particularly hated God and the truth. He particularly hated positive things. Isn't this being deviant? This kind of person is a devil. If you asked him, Who is it that you believe in? He would certainly say he believes in God. He believes in God, and yet he hates God. This reveals the mindset of a devil. This is being deviant. Why do I say that? First, I didn't know this person at all, and I had never pruned him, yet he harbored such deep hatred toward me. This is being deviant. Second, it was the brothers and sisters who arranged for him to grow these vegetables. If he wasn't willing to do it, he could have raised the issue, but instead he took out his anger on the vegetable plot. After planting, he didn't tend to it properly and gave the above poorly grown vegetables to eat. Third, he was quite willing when it came to growing vegetables for the brothers and sisters and took quite good care of them. But when it came to growing vegetables for the above, he was unwilling in his heart. He was particularly hateful, and it's not clear why. No one had offended him, yet he treated the above and treated God this way. Isn't this being deviant? This deviant driving force is so great. For one thing, it is evil. For another, it is deviant. This is the nature of a devil. No matter how tolerantly and patiently God's house treats devils with love, no matter how God's house gives them chances to attain salvation, they don't understand these things at all. In their hearts, they simply hate God and God's house. This is entirely because the nature of a devil is precisely to hate God and to hate positive things. No one can clearly say what the reason for this is. Devils simply harbor groundless hatred toward God and positive things. This is what's known as being deviant. What was he thinking about every day? However the vegetables I grow turn out, that's just what you'll have to eat. If they turn out good, you'll have good vegetables to eat. If I didn't grow any good ones, then don't eat them. Anyway, I've grown them for you. You have to be grateful to me. Were the things in his heart not deviant? What he was thinking was all wicked, sinister, and abnormal. People with conscience and reason feel that his thoughts are inconceivable. They cannot wrap their heads around why he would think this way. This is precisely how devils act. What he thought about and contemplated in his heart was all dark and wicked things. Can someone like this, who is a devil, accept the truth? He did not even possess the basic human morals, or conscience and reason. When God was mentioned, he became irate and felt hatred. When others asked him to do some other task, he was not as resistant. It was only when it came to growing vegetables for the above that he was particularly resistant. This is being evil. This is being deviant. You might ask him why he's so resistant. This is a matter of the heart, and he might not be able to say clearly just where the root lies. Are you able to see clearly where the root of this problem lies? Why did he treat God this way? Most people would find this utterly baffling. How could someone who believes in God treat God like this? Is he not a non-believer? Now, through the fellowship on the truth, are you able to see a bit more clearly the essence and origin of different types of people? You ought to be able to see a bit more clearly now. These are precisely the kind of people who are reincarnated from devils, and their nature is to hate God. Tell me, Can people reincarnated from devils change?
They cannot.
They are just like the great red dragon. They too can say the right words, say words that align with conscience and morality, but they absolutely cannot carry out the things they say. They can say many pleasant-sounding words, but when it comes time for them to do real things, they cannot do a single one. Why can't they do them? Because inside, they're devils. They would feel uncomfortable and distressed inside if they did positive things, and things that conform to the standard of human conscience. Only when doing evil, doing what devils do, thinking what devils think, do they feel comfortable and joyful inside. This is the true face of this kind of person. If you chat idly with them, talk about matters of fleshly life, or even discuss current events and politics, they are able to sit still. But once the content of the fellowship touches on positive things, the truth, God, God's identity, God's essence, God's work, God's intentions for man, or God's requirements for man, they become averse and resistant in their hearts. They do not want to listen to it. They start scratching their ears and cheeks, as if sitting on pins and needles. Their hearts start crawling with agitation and unease, like there are weeds growing wild inside them. They feel that staying even 1 second longer is like being tormented, and some of them will even stand up and walk out on the spot. Even if some people, for the sake of appearances, sit there very politely and do not leave, their minds are already wandering far off. Their thoughts have long since flown beyond the clouds, and they simply are not listening to what you're saying. Why do they have these manifestations? Because in their hearts, they are repulsed by God and positive things. They are not interested in the truth. They cannot take it in and are unwilling to accept it. As soon as there is fellowship on the truth during a gathering, they think of all sorts of excuses to leave, saying, "I have to go take care of something," or "I have to return a phone call." They just want to seize any excuse to run away. Such people simply are deviant. If someone acknowledges that they are a person who believes in and follows God, then they should not have these manifestations. But when it comes to matters involving positive things or involving God, people reincarnated from devils have these manifestations. This is beyond their own control and is a matter of their nature essence. It is determined by their origin, and no one can change this fact. When you fellowship on the truth, on positive things, on God's intentions, on God's words, it feels to them like you're judging them, like it's going to end their lives. This is the true inner state of how they treat God, the truth, and positive things. Of course, this is also one kind of manifestation of such people's wicked essence. Because they are repulsed by and detest positive things, the truth and God, what they think about and contemplate in their inner worlds every day has absolutely nothing to do with positive things, the truth, or God's work. Everything they think about in their hearts is related to what is deviant. What they think about is how to show themselves off so that they can have status and prestige among people, how to act so as to mislead people, gain status, and make more people approve of and look up to them. how to act so as to win people's hearts and gain their approval, and how to earn recognition and promotions from God's house or from leaders at every level. Everything they think about and everything they do carries the nature of vying, fighting, snatching, deceiving, scheming, plotting, inciting, beguiling, controlling, and misleading, doesn't it? They spare no cost in doing these things. They are willing to suffer any hardship. During the entire process of their suffering, they are hatching plans and scheming about what evil to do, whom to calculate against, and what goals to achieve. In everything they do, there is strategy, there is specific intent. Outwardly, they do not publicly say things that go against the truth, nor do they publicly do things that disrupt or disturb the church's work. And they even more so do not publicly judge, attack, or blaspheme God. They do not do these obvious evil deeds. But in their inner worlds, they never think about anything related to the truth or to positive things, and even never consider anything related to human conscience and reason or morality. So what is it that they do consider? Their minds are entirely trapped in designs, ruses, calculation, conspiring, and plotting. So even if, on the outside, you do not see them publicly resisting God, or hear them speak words of complaint against God, suspicion toward God, judgment of God, or even blasphemy against God, in their hearts they are nonetheless filled with an attitude of contempt, scorn, and irreverence toward God's words, God's work, and anything related to God's work. No matter what God says, what God's requirements for people are, what God's intentions are, or what the principles are behind the various kinds of work God does, they never pay attention to or accept them. Within these people, there is simply no container to receive these positive things. Although you do not see them publicly resist or condemn these positive things, from the perspective of the depths of their hearts, they are repulsed by them and detest them. When they listen to sermons, they are not pondering how to accept the truth and practice the truth, but rather how to summarize the fresh light and phrases they hear and turn them into their own words to fellowship and share with others, for the purpose of making people look up to and idolize them. They think to themselves, if I then preach these words to those who have just joined the church, I'll be able to gain even more people's admiration and idolization, and I'll have even higher status among people. This status will be based on how much doctrine I understand and grasp, and how comprehensively I grasp it. Even if they sit there listening to sermons, even listening very attentively and diligently, and putting in a great deal of effort, their attitude is not positive and their motive is not pure. They do not listen with an attitude of accepting the truth, but contemplate it like they're studying theology, comparing what's said in sermons to the Bible. They do not accept God's words and compare themselves against them, seeking to understand their own various problems, and to find from them a path of resolution and principles for practice, so that they can come to know themselves, develop genuine remorse, cast off their corrupt dispositions, act and behave in a way that conforms to the truth principles, and satisfy God's intentions. That is absolutely not their goal. What is their goal? It is to equip themselves with more doctrines so they can parade and show themselves off and make people look up to and idolize them. That is the first aim. Their second aim is to find the simplest path to gaining blessings. After listening to sermons and confirming that this is the true way, they begin pondering how much hope they have of gaining blessings, how much hope they have of attaining salvation. Then they determine to make use of the method of enduring hardship and paying a price, to fraudulently obtain the trust of God's chosen people and God's house, and to make God see the hardships they endure and the price they pay. They think that they can gain great blessings and a wonderful destination by believing in God in this way. You see, their attitude toward sermons and toward every aspect of the truth is not to simply accept it and then practice and experience it. Rather, they have ulterior plans and schemes. They are always hoping to make use of certain phrases or classic quotes from sermons and fellowship to equip their own minds and rhetorical arsenals, so as to mislead the brothers and sisters, making everyone idolize them, allowing themselves to gain standing among people and be able to enjoy the high esteem of others. Aren't these thoughts, intents, and attitudes they have when listening to sermons enough to show that such people are very deviant? Can anyone correct this deviant driving force in them? If you were to say to them, thinking this way is not accepting the truth, it's not the attitude one who pursues the truth ought to have. If you think this way, the truth will have no effect on you. It will not enable you to attain salvation. You should accept the truth, find the principles for practice within it, and practice and experience God's words in real life, so that God's words become your truth reality and ultimately become your life. Would they be able to achieve that?
They would not.
Why not? Is it because they haven't put in enough effort? Or because our fellowship on the truth hasn't taken their feelings into account? Or hasn't included a suitable provision of the truth directed toward their state?
Neither is the case.
Then what is the reason?
It is determined by their essence of hating the truth.
Therefore, it must be said that these people's manifestations are inseparable from their essence. They are intimately connected. No one can correct the thoughts in their hearts, and no one can change the wicked nature essence of these people who are devils. They hate the truth and reject the truth, so the truth is unable to change them. Then, can it be said that this kind of person is beyond help? The answer is definitely yes. Why? Because their nature essence is that of devils. Everything they reveal is entirely governed by the nature of devils. It is absolutely not a temporary revelation of corruption, nor is it a revelation of the wicked, corrupt dispositions of corrupt humankind. It's because they are devils, not created human beings. This is the root of the problem. This kind of person has some additional manifestations when listening to sermons. Every time God's house fellowships on the truth, and it involves exposing and dissecting the evil deeds and manifestations of certain people, they say things like, "Aren't you talking about that incident that happened before? I know the whole story. I know exactly what your goal is in bringing this up. Aren't you just trying to use fellowshipping and dissecting this matter to establish your own authority and make people listen to you? Isn't it just that you want to teach a lesson to some people and suppress some people? Isn't this just launching a campaign? Only a fool would believe what you say. Only a fool would listen to you and practice according to the truth principles. You see, even when they hear some examples, statements, or specific manifestations of people that relate to some aspect of the truth, what they understand is completely different from what others understand. They cannot comprehend these things correctly or treat them correctly, and they can even twist the facts and judge and condemn positive things. What they think about in their hearts is always so dark, yet they feel they are particularly clever and know the real story. Isn't this deviant? It's just like the great red dragon. The great red dragon says that when the Church of Almighty God clears people out or expels people, it is done as a display of power for others to see. But it never says that when God's house, the church, clears people out, it is purifying the church. This is because they are non-believing devils who cannot comprehend the truth. They always twist, judge, and condemn positive things, and they absolutely will not treat positive things with a correct mindset. They would rather believe that they evolved from apes, that they are the descendants of dragons, than admit that humans were created by God. Just recently, I even heard some scientific researchers say that a giant rat species from hundreds of millions of years ago was the ancestor of humankind. What a ridiculous and bizarre theory! If you try to get them to admit that humans were created by God, to believe that humans were created by God, no matter how you say it, they refuse to admit it. Even with this fact laid out right before their eyes, they still do not believe. They just believe that humans evolved from apes, or that they are the offspring of rats, or that they are the descendants of dragons. They would rather believe these kinds of devilish words than believe that humans were created by God, that human life and breath were given by God. They do not believe it, do not admit it, and are unwilling to accept this fact. Isn't this deviant? If you say they are the descendants of dragons, they are delighted. If you say they evolved from apes and are descendants of apes, or that a giant rat is their ancestor, they say, "Yes, what an honor." But if you say that humans were created by God, they turn hostile. Their eyes flare with anger, and they become full of hatred toward you. This is so deviant